the past 8 years, Pam Bondi has been the Attorney General in Florida, but her term is up and the race to replace her has begun. One of the candidates hoping to take over is Sean Shaw, a state representative from Tampa. He is running as a Democrat, and he joins me now. Representative, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, happy to be here, Jim. Thanks.
So why do you want to be Attorney General?
Listen, I think the Attorney General job is the best job in Florida. It's the job that allows you to protect Floridians, stand up for Floridians. I'm running to be the lawyer for the state of Florida. Anyone doing wrong to any Floridians, they're going to hear from my office. And it's the greatest job for consumer protection and standing up against all kinds of bad actors. And it's the job that's freest from interference. I don't care who the governor is. I don't care who's in charge of the Senate. I don't care what's going on in the legislature. My charge is to protect Floridians, and I get to do that as Attorney General without all kinds of bureaucracy preventing me from doing so. I love it.
So what's your evaluation of the last 8 years under Pam Bondi?
Well, I'll tell you, the people of the state of Florida are going to have a stark choice to make, a continuation of her legacy or me, because I don't believe that the current Attorney General has been active enough, not nearly so. Whether you talk about the bridge collapse that happened down here, no Attorney General investigation. The nursing home deaths, no Attorney General investigation. The legislature, in my estimation, does all kinds of things that are subject to the Attorney General going after us. Quite frankly, the way we fund or don't fund public education, I think, runs afoul of the Florida Constitution. The voters told us they wanted medicinal cannabis. You still don't have it because we haven't passed rules in Tallahassee to have it. Amendment 1, we were supposed to take dock stamp money and use it to purchase environmentally sensitive lands. All those things, the legislature is not doing what the people told us they wanted done. Who's going to go after them?
Well, one of the things, too, the Attorney General often either joins or opposes things that are going on at the national level. You've seen very active Attorney Generals, Eric Schneiderman in New York, Kamala Harris when she was in California, take part in lawsuits, challenge and push back against federal regulations or federal laws when they think they're out of line. Is that?
I mean, you're exactly correct. I mean, I intend to be the most active Attorney General in the country. I'll have competition from Schneiderman, of course, New York, but the net neutrality issue, lots of Attorney Generals gathered together to join in that. The Cambridge Analytica Facebook, 42 Attorney Generals wrote a letter asking questions. Guess which state wasn't part of those 42? Us. This job requires aggressive activity on behalf of the state of Florida, on behalf of the people. I would argue you haven't seen it in a long time in this office. That's why I'm running.
So the idea of winning, the Democrats have not held an Attorney General position since Bob Butterworth had it in 2002. These are off-year elections. They're not held in presidential years, so 2018. Granted, there could be a lot of interest in the 2018 election, but how does a Democrat get elected when the Republican candidate is going to have so much money on their side?
Well, one, at least I'm giving you a little bit of the playbook here, but the Republicans on the other side they're going to have a pretty nasty primary. They're going to have to take some positions that I don't think are tenable in a general election.
You think they're going to have to move to the right?
They're going to have to move to the right. They've already started doing that. So, you know, I'm going to run this race how I believe is the best way to run it for Floridians. It's not really a partisan issue. Listen, Republicans and Democrats want to prevent scammers, right? This is a lot of this race, protecting people, standing up for Floridians, is not a partisan message. It just requires someone willing to be active, someone willing to go after bad actors, and I would tell you we haven't had that. So you go out and tell Floridians that. Two, we all know what we're dealing with here, what kind of cycle we're in. You have to give people a reason to vote for you, not just going against other people.
Give us a little bit of your background. Where'd you go to school?
Sure.
Where'd you go to law school?
I was born in Jacksonville, raised in Tallahassee, and I represent Tampa now, so I've got the state covered. So I was born in Jacksonville. My family moved to Tallahassee when we were very young because my dad, Leander J. Shaw Jr., was the first African-American Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court. So I grew up in Tallahassee, went to public schools, went to Princeton University for college, University of Florida for law school, went back to Tallahassee and worked for a law firm. Then I got appointed by Alex Sink, who was the CFO at the time, to be the insurance consumer advocate of the state of Florida, which meant I was responsible for making sure someone was standing up for insurance consumers. I ran an office of about 15, and we did all sorts of things, protecting consumers, holding insurance companies accountable, making sure rates were low, testified before the legislature on these issues, resigned that to work on our governor's race, and ended up in Tampa, and here we are.
Let's talk about an issue that's prevalent right now, restoration of civil rights. The courts, have given the state state a little bit of time to come up with a better way of trying to do what they're doing. Give me your impressions. If you were a member of the cabinet, what would you do when it comes to restoring civil rights to those who have served their time as felons?
Easy. One, I support Amendment 4, which is automatic restoration of rights. If you have done your time, you should be able to vote. Second, the federal judge, at least at the trial level, told the cabinet you have until a certain day to come up with a better procedure to do it, because the way you do it is currently wrong.
Well, let me rather than get technical, why is it important to restore people's civil rights?
Because it's America. Because we all believe in second choices. Because once you have served your time in jail, why should you not be able to return to society? Why? Well, I mean, there is no reason that you should not be. And the cumbersome process that we have here, where you've got to go before the clemency board.
Florida is the worst at this.
We're the worst at disenfranchising people. Once you've served your time, that should be it. I can't tell you, when I knock on a person's door when I'm running for office, when I last run for office, and you knock on the door and you ask them for their vote, and that person says, well, I'm a felon, I can't vote. You should look in that person's eyes and you tell me if they think they're a full member of society. They don't. They should be.
What is the next issue that you think is most important as an attorney general?
You know, the opioid crisis that we're dealing with now is something that we've just got to attack, and I think we've got to attack it from the top down. The manufacturers are the ones who have kind of led to the prevalence of these drugs in our streets. They need to be sued. They need to be gone after in a similar fashion that tobacco was. Another issue is guns, right? Clearly, it's my belief that we need to do something about the prevalence of guns on our streets as a general matter. And while that is a lot in the prerogative of the legislature, certainly as Attorney General, I would support any efforts to make sure we address the problem. We like to talk all around the problem and come up with other things rather than what we all know in our hearts is the issue. There's too many guns on the streets. It's too easy to get them.
Representative Sean Shaw, you're on the ballot in the primary in August and then potentially in November for Attorney General.
Yes,
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll talk to you some more. We'll be right back after the break.